Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to the channel, Trucker Man Reads. We are firmly in the dog days of summer. It's still summer. September is also technically summer, I guess. But it's winding down. It is not getting any less hot. In fact, I'm looking at 104 degrees today. That sucked. And feeling it on that side of things. Football is back, but it's preseason football, so it doesn't really count. You can feel the change coming, and it's taking its time getting here. We call it the dog days for a reason. Thus, I decided to look for a good dog days of summer book to read. I started poking around, and I came up with Summer of the Monkeys by Wilson Rawls. If that name is familiar to you at all, it is probably because you have heard of Where the Red Fern Grows. I've never read Where the Red Fern Grows. I've heard of it over the years. There was a film adaptation of some quality that I saw in elementary school. And so I'm familiar with the story that way. It's about kids somewhere that they're living in a small town. One of them goes coon hunting. They have a feud with a family next door. They get in a fight. One of the kids accidentally dies. I'll probably read the book, and I'm sure it's better than I'm describing it. But it's one of those kind of perennial sellers. And seeing that this one was written by the same guy, is like, okay, he's had staying power. Let's look into it. Before I get into the book, there's a little bit about the author. Like I said, his name is Wilson Rawls. But I noticed when I picked this one up that it said the author's name is Wilson Woodrow Rawls. I'm like, well, you don't just slap a name like that on a kid unless you're intentionally connecting it to the president Woodrow Wilson, who sucked, by the way. But I digress. And I wondered what the reasoning was. Mainly, what I found when I looked up his encyclopedia entry is that he was born in 1913. That was the year that Woodrow Wilson took office. And he was born in Oklahoma, right here in my adoptive state. And he died in Wisconsin the year that I was born, in 1984. And so as he's writing these books, he's obviously drawing on life experience. I can't remember where the other book was set, the Red Fern Grows book, but this one, Summer of the Monkeys, is set in Oklahoma near the end of the 1800s. So now we can get into the plot here. The family, the Lee family, main characters, the mom and dad and two teenage kids, they have twins. Jay, I keep his name sticking in my head. It was so weird. My brain kept automatically editing his name to just Jay, but his name is Jay Barry Lee, and everybody called him Jay Barry. He was born first, and then his twin sister was born shortly after him. She's got a deformity. It's a twisted leg thing with muscle problems. He doesn't get into the specifics of the condition, like its name, but it's important to know for the purpose of the story that it can be fixed with surgery, but this is 1890s surgery. It's stupid expensive, and you're piss poor dirt broke in Missouri, and you're trying to buy a farm. So what 3 cents a year you can save is not going towards the surgery. You're trying to buy land that you will then give to your descendants. But the family gets a call out of the blue. Their grandparents in Oklahoma, out in the Cherokee Nation, have 60 acres that need to be developed. And they say, hey, Lee family, you can come have this. You can build your farm on it and everything. This is when Jay Barry and his sister Daisy are still little babies. They go to develop the land there and get set up. Well, when Jay Barry is 14, he hears of this local train wreck where there was a circus, like a series of circus cars that crashed and overturned or whatever, and 30 monkeys escaped. And they went to go hide in the wilderness there on Cherokee Nation near the Lee farm. this book is, as far as pinning down like exactly where the farm is, it says it's about 12 miles from Tahlequah. If you want to look that up on a map, I'm probably going to butcher the spelling here because I've only seen it spelled a couple of times. Tahlequah, but I might be adding one too many H's. It could just be Talequah, Tahlequah. It's where the Cherokee University is. But anyway, the circus has to keep going from town to town to make its money, and they can't go track down their monkeys, but their monkeys are one of their valuable attractions. And so they put out a reward. So, hey, if you can find our 29 monkeys or whatever, 28 monkeys and a chimp, and get them back to us, there will be a financial reward worth up to about $160, which was a considerable amount of money back then, especially for piss poor broke farmers. And Jay Lee, who's only ever Jay Barry Lee, who's only wanted his entire young life a pony and a rifle, because all the other boys in his age have one. That was their fortnight back then. He's like, oh man, if I go get these monkeys, I'm going to be rolling in it. And he knows a thing or two about coon hunting and coon trapping, which was, again, the subject of Wilson Rawls' other book. So why wouldn't that same stuff apply? Well, turns out as crafty as raccoons are, monkeys are way smarter, and they will expletive with you. And the next several progressions of the story are like, the Sandlot kids trying to get the Babe Ruth ball back from the Beast. Like, it gets progressively more complex and frustrating as he tries some new series of traps to spring on the monkeys, and the lead monkey, especially the chimp, is just flat out smarter. And Jay Barry will set out these traps to try to catch him in some new intricate way, and here comes the chimpanzee just plucking the apples and leaving the traps, and Jay Barry's forced to admit, it's like, oh, frick, like I didn't even see him, but obviously the monkey was watching me the whole time. He knew exactly what to do. It's man versus science, on the, not quite the frontier, but definitely that time and place. I'm going to withhold describing the third act of the book because it's one of those that, like, if you get a tenor for what kind of genre it is and what Rawls is going for, you might be able to semi-cynically predict the ending of it, but it is, man, like, the beauty of it is in the execution of what Jay Barry decides to do to resolve this trial that he's up against. And I don't want to say anything else there because I don't want to spoil it, but as he's like going to war with these monkeys to try to get rich, it's less about that whole dynamic. That whole situation is just the mechanism by which this family story is told, and I like that. The middle grade books, such as they are, and I think that's a genre term that came along later, definitely after Rawls' time, but this book is firmly in that category. These middle grade books are of greater value when they are also accessible to elder readers. There's a balance that can be challenging to strike. If you try to write too much for the adult readers, then a lot of it's going to go over the kids' heads and they're going to get bored. And if you tie in too strictly and too exclusively with the kid stuff, then yeah, it's just going to be a kid book. But I think there's a lot to recommend this book to readers of all ages. It's very wholesome, it's very uplifting, and it's a very good snapshot of a time and place. You are in bad financial shape in Missouri if you're like, yeah, let's go move out to these 60 acres of nothing on Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma in the 1890s, because hey, that's better than what we've got going on being sharecroppers in Missouri. I'm saying it like that on purpose, but it shows like the grit and the dedication that the Lee family had to getting the things that they wanted, and what it cost them and what they learned as a result. Objectives have to have stakes. They also have to have a cost, and a character has to grow and change as a result of the encounter with this challenge. So the monkeys are a cool piece of the story, but the story is about more than that. And since this is a short enough book, I recommend you check it out. Apparently, it was adapted to a film at some point. No idea when. I'd never even heard of it until I heard of this book. So do check out Summer of the Monkeys by Wilson Rawls if you're looking for a good book to read during the dog days of summer, as we wait for September to get here and actual football and the autumn equinox and all of the things that happily transition us to the next season of the year. All right, that's it. Drive safe. See you out there.